You're busy starting your dream. Maybe you've been going at it for a long time. Or maybe you haven't actually taken any action, but the reason's the same. You feel stuck. You don't really know what to do next. It seems like there's a lot to do, but what should you do? And some things seem like, well, eventually you'll need to do that, but there are steps along the way that you just have to get through to get there. So, what do you do? Well, that's our question today. Hi, I'm Paul with TrinityDigitalMedia.com, and I want to suggest some ways to get unstuck, some ways to know what to do when you don't know what to do, some ways to figure out what the next steps are. So first I want to have you think about if you already knew what you were doing. Let's say you talk to the future you, a year down the road, 6 months down the road, maybe even a week or a month down the road. And that person they already know what they're doing. And you ask them, what is the next step I should take? It might be very clear what that is. You just see all the other steps and you're confused. So, number one is ask someone who is further down the road, well, in your mind, what should I be doing? Number two, look for a baby step that you just haven't taken yet. What's the next little thing that you can do? It might seem just so small it's not even worth mentioning, but you just haven't taken it for one reason or another. Well, that's still a step, so take it. It might illuminate another step which you can take, and so on and so on. And before you know it, you're further down the road. Number three, ask a mentor what you should do. Maybe the problem is you're blinded by being in the midst of the situation, so you really don't know what to do. Well, that's why we have mentors, because they're people that can help us know what to do. So ask a mentor what you should do, and then do it. Number four, try an experiment to see what might work. Do you think that there's 2 or 3 possible ways to go, but you're not sure which the right one is? Why don't you experiment and see what each idea yields? It could be that one of them doesn't work at all. And you might think, oh, I failed. No, you haven't failed. You've just learned that one doesn't work at all. So just don't worry about doing that. Back up and try something else. Number 5, make a list of leaders in your area, whatever you feel called to do, whatever you feel like you were made to do. Look for people that are already known to be great at that, and read their stories of how they got there. A lot of times you'll find these on their blogs, or you'll find them in books that they've written, or things like that. Or if you actually know some of these leaders, you could say, well, how did you get from where I am to where you are? And that would be helpful. Number 6, ask what you need that you don't have. Maybe it's education, maybe it's fundage, money, maybe it's opportunity, and then try and figure out the next steps to take to get that. So maybe your dream isn't to make $1 million. Maybe your dream is to have a live streaming video network, but that's going to cost some money. So how do you get the money together to have this network? Some of the things that I've been thinking. How do I get the money together to make what I feel called to do happen? Next, Try to do something, even if it's wrong, so that you don't succumb to paralysis by analysis. What do I mean by that? It is easy to sit around all day and try and figure out what to do, but sometimes doing something that you have an inkling might not be the right thing, but doing it nonetheless can sometimes illuminate what you should be doing more than just sitting around and doing it. Think of it this way. If you spend too much time figuring out how to solve every problem, you won't ever be able to engage in the activity that would bring up those problems. And you're probably wrong. You're probably wrong because some of those problems aren't really problems that you will face. Some of those problems are things that wouldn't be an issue whatsoever. But you don't know that because you're not currently doing it. Finally, evaluate what you've done and see if you should take another path. Now, it could be that you've kind of forced yourself into a corner where there's no escape because you made a bad decision a few steps previous. It could be that you're on the wrong path, going the wrong direction, and that's why the next step just doesn't seem obvious. There are a lot of reasons, so look at where you are and see, am I off the path that I was planning on going? If I don't feel called to be a freelance videographer, for example, this is part of my own story, then if I'm having trouble getting freelance videography clients, maybe I'm doing the wrong things anyway. Maybe I need to back up and head a slightly different direction. And so that's one of the things that I've done to tweak what I'm doing and get different results. So I hope that you'll look at this list. Look at the things that you need to do. Look at the things that you'd like to do. And look at the things that maybe you didn't even think that you should do. And just take a step. See where it leads you. Don't consider it failure if you get a certain amount in and it just doesn't seem to be working. Instead, consider it a lesson learned. You're not going to be 100% perfect 100% of the time from the get-go. You're not. So, in fact, I'm not totally sure where we get this idea, but it's a wrong idea. Instead, view this whole thing as an experiment where you figure out what works and what doesn't, and you're always changing, you're always rearranging, you're always moving in different directions, trying to find the next right step. Now, I don't want you to say, my call is to be a ministry leader, and so therefore you go out and you found a strip club. You see, those don't seem to go together. So you've got to be careful that the things actually go together. But what I want you to do is try and make positive effort. Fail forward is what some business leaders call it, where you make a mistake and then you move forward. You make a mistake, you move forward. Because failure is a temporary thing. It's not a person. You are not a failure. It's just something that happened, and you can learn from it, get up, and keep moving. And I think when you do that, and you take the next step, whatever it is, eventually you'll realize, I went out and I changed eternity. Till next time, I'm Paul Allen Clifford with TrinityDigitalMedia.com.